Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Yep. So we have more folks coming in, and we're gonna take another 10 or 15 seconds and then begin our intro remarks. Good evening to everybody. And okay, so I will get started, and we have a lot of ground to cover this evening, and I have a few folks who want to share some messages. So welcome to our webinar, Harness the Power of Social Media to Grow Your Business. Our presenter is Troy Sandidge, an award-winning growth marketing strategist known as the Strategy Hacker, who creates strategies, high-growth businesses to increase their growth, authority, and profitability. I'm Al Blitz, one of about 70 mentors with our SCORE North Cook and Lake Counties chapter, and I'll be serving as this evening's moderator. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, thank you, Troy, and will be made available on our YouTube channel. That'll take a couple of weeks, but we will have it up there. Please submit your questions using the chat function at any time. We really do welcome your questions, and they will be answered either during the presentation, most likely at the end. Troy's presentation is going to go about 45 minutes, so we should have plenty of time for questions. Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce Clara McCulley, Director of Business Library Services at Glenview Public Library, to share a few words about our sponsors, which we would actually like to thank on behalf of the chapter, and the collaboration that she represents.
So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name's Claire, and I'm the business librarian at Glenview Public Library. As Al mentioned, this program is presented in partnership by Evanston, Glenview, Skokie, and Wilmette Public Libraries, as well as the Evanston, Glenview, Skokie, and Wilmette Kenilworth Chambers of Commerce. So please watch for information on more programs from this collaboration, including a virtual program coming up in November called Find and Keep Great Employees that will discuss some strategies for hiring. So thank you very much to Troy and to SCORE North Cook and Lake Counties for presenting this program tonight.
Okay, thank you, Claire. And we appreciate the opportunity to work with all of the libraries and chambers for this evening's event and all the support you've given. So Claire, you're welcome to stay for the webinar, and we will switch you out, but if it doesn't happen, we'll have you come back in as a viewer, okay?
Okay.
So, in fact, Claire, I was not able to switch you out. So I can click remove and then come on in through the other link to view, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's keep moving on the intro slide so we can get to Troy. Next slide, please. So SCORE is a national organization that's funded by the Small Business Administration. We have over 11,000 volunteers serving 1,500 communities. Next slide, please. What's important is that SCORE provides free and confidential mentoring to small businesses, and score.org is the place to go. We have a tremendous library of resources for those who want to start a new business or grow their existing business. Next slide. And we have upcoming webinars you'll be hearing about as a result of registering for this evening's webinar. You should receive constant contact emails for the two webinars. One, Why Should I Buy From You? By Thomas Herman in September on the 8th. And So You Wanted to Start Your Own Business, for those seeking to evaluate, should I go into business? John Fisher, one of our mentors and members of our education marketing team, on October 20th. So we look forward to those events. And next slide. And this will make it easy. If you'd like to request a mentor, just scan the QR code and it'll take you to the website for our chapter, northchicago.score.org, and it'll make it easy for you to secure a mentor for your small business development needs. Okay, now it's time for Troy. Troy, I'm going to switch it over to you. You're going to introduce yourself. We really thank you for sharing your expertise this evening. You're an absolute pleasure to work with. And I want to leave as much time as possible for all of your content, and then join you at the back end for the Q&A. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Awesome. I want to give a big shout to Score. Big out to everyone who's listening, everyone who's watching right now, and in the replay. We'll talk about me later. Let's just dive right in. So obviously, we're going to talk about harnessing the power of social media to grow your business. So tell me if any of this lands with any of you all. Common challenges we face as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as startups, as freelancers. Maybe you're part of a team, you're growing a team, whatever role that you fit in. Everyone in some way, shape, or form facing some of these challenges. The biggest one, or at least one of the biggest ones, not enough time. There's just not enough time in the day. On top of all of that, you're not delegating enough. Maybe there's not enough money to use certain tools, or your team isn't big enough. You're running on different things and you would love more of this and more of that. Maybe your audience is desensitized to your marketing tactics. Maybe even the competitors are offering way more than what you can offer, or they're doing bundles, or they're coming at a lower rate. All of these things are happening. And then you get down to, maybe I still haven't adapted enough to social media, to digital era. Oh, I missed what happened in 2010 or the 2000s or pre-pandemic. And now we're, coming on the other side of the pandemic and everything is changing. How do we navigate all of this using social media as a bridge, as a utility to help us grow, to help us build authority, to really, expand our business in many other different facets and ways? Well, this presentation is for you. So let's talk about, what is growth marketing? By definition, growth marketing is a combination of marketing and sales and customer success and support and all these different things working in harmony to push your organization to an optimal level so you can grow. I want to make it very clear that social media marketing, whether you bring on a social media manager, you're using your social media by yourself, you're using different tools, all of that collective as one unit is a utility, is a bridge to help you grow and scale your business. And so it's not meant to be a one-all, I just need to focus on social media. Social media is working in tangent, in harmony with other facets of your business. But when you really look at it from a growth marketing perspective, there's three things I want you to think about: retaining existing customers or clients, acquiring new customers or clients, and increasing profitability. Now, traditionally, people typically will do when they first start out on social media, they'll do the whole QVC, set it and forget it, where they just put content out there. They don't remember to engage, to follow up on questions, to look at the DMs or direct messages and all the different things that come from. Maybe you had a boost in website traffic or a boost in YouTube views, or you've had a few forums that popped in that coincide with when you posted and different things like that. Are we watching? Are we retaining, acquiring, and increasing our customers and our profitability? And social media could be a really key utility in doing all of that. So before we go into mega deep, because I'm telling you, I have a lot of gems. I'm glad this is recorded. So if you're not really quick with your notes, no worries. We got you. But I'll just introduce myself really quickly. So about me, I'm an award-winning growth strategist. I'm known as a strategy hacker. And yes, if you look me up, I do have that trademarked. I'm author of Strategize Up. I'm a 3-time agency builder. I'm a founder and a COO. On top of that, I'm host of I Digress, which is a top 100 marketing podcast. I'm the creator of the LinkedIn Authority writing system. I'm recognized as a top 100 marketing leader. I've done a bunch of other things. We'll let the slide do the talking for you. I really want to jump right into what to do and what not to do with social media, because that's what you came for. So there are 7 social media do's. Number 1, it's pretty obvious. You might think, duh, but actually a lot of people don't activate on this. Be social on social. Be social on social. We talked about this 2 slides back. The whole QVC set it and forget it. That doesn't help you in social media, especially in this era, when we have the TikToks of the world, the optimized Twitter, the totally changing, forever changing Instagram, and obviously the OGs like Facebook, you got to be social. There's no way around it. If you're not being social, if you're not, practicing, nurturing, and driving community, nothing can happen. Number 2, post regularly. Now, granted, I'm not saying post 7 times a day. I get this question. That's probably the number one question. Troy, how many times do I need to post so I can boost my followers, so I can increase my website traffic, so I can get forms? And honestly, you really can't quantify. If I post 100 times a month, I should get 10 forms a month for new business. It doesn't work that way. There's too many variables to factor into that. What I was saying is, when you're posting regularly, post what you can consistently. That could be once a day. That could be once a week. That could be once a month. Try once a month. If your content is that good and leads with something, it really could give you some business every month. Number 3, think marathon, not sprint. People be chasing. We got to 100 followers. We got to 1,000 followers, and they're just sprinting, and then they think they're done. When actually it's an expansion of a marathon. We're always nurturing. We're always optimizing. We're always in a state of pushing out content, engagement, and growing. Number 4, tell some personal stories. Now, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're B2B or you're B2C, all the things, we are storytellers. We want to hear a story. I can hear all the fluff left and right. Tell me why you started your business. What is your mission? What gets you up in the morning? Make you feel real, make you feel human. Number 5, write for the audience. And I'm going to add to that, not for yourself. When you're writing for the audience, you're writing to either talk about the problem that they have that you solve, or you're talking about ways to create community, or you're talking ways that you want to serve or make an impact, or you're finding ways that things that you like that hopefully other people who like the same things are attracted to you. But when you write for the audience, it's so much better than trying to write what you think, because the only way I can write for my audience, I need to be a listener of what they're saying, of what their needs are, of where they are. Number 6, mix up the content. Now, I get this all the time. Troy, should I do video? Is that going to help me? I don't want to do video. I get anxiety with video. And I always like to say, well, does the audience say it needs video? Is it really screaming, we need video to be successful? And depending on where it is and what your type of audience is, if that's what they're telling you, and that's what you need to do. Now, there's ways around that. Well, Troy, I can't do video. Can you hire someone else to do video for you? Can you read a script with your voice and convert that to an audiogram? In my world, there's no excuse but produce. We can find the right way to create the content once we know what the type of content that converts really is. And the last thing, it's very obvious, but I want to really emphasize that again. Think before you post. In a world where you have keyword warriors at any moment that could be doing something and take something out of context, make sure you do an analysis of what you're doing, making sure that the content makes sense before you post, and see what happens. Now we covered the do's, let's cover the don'ts. Number 1, don't go off brand. Number 2, don't argue online. 2 things that seem very obvious, but sometimes people can say things that start you. It's always good to just, if you have to address the conflict or negativity, be so in a kindly manner and try to take it offline. And if they're just too much, you can always hide it and call it a day. Number 3, don't spray and pray. Be very consistent and concise with your messaging and your tone. Number 4, don't be everywhere. Gasp. Troy, I'm not supposed to be everywhere? I should be everywhere, right? TikTok is blowing up. I should be on TikTok. Maybe I should go back on YouTube because YouTube Shorts. Instagram making some changes. Maybe to double down on Instagram. LinkedIn is making a resurgence. Let me get back on LinkedIn. Be where you feel most comfortable. Be where you can be most consistent, and be where your audience is. Because you don't want to be on a platform that you're putting all this energy, all this effort, and nobody hears it. Number 5, don't ask on repeat. Make time to engage and connect with other individuals, Chamber of Commerce, your colleagues and friends who are also in other businesses and spotlighting things. There's enough room for all of us in the sky to fly. There's no reason for me to only always be on repeat, ask, because people are going to see you as spam and they're going to just ignore your content. So show value, give value, and drive really good communication. Number 6, don't just talk. Social, again, what the first thing we said, be social on social. It requires you a two-way street, a bridge to engage and listen. And number 7, don't ignore your community. So we're gonna do hyper speed and kind of speed up the process on this moving forward. So let's cover the do's and don'ts on Facebook. Do share a variety of posts. It's an OG. So you got 5 work generations on this platform at this point. It's still valuable. It's still good for using for different business depending on your structure. So do share a variety of posts. Don't only post promotional content. Do respond to comments and messages. And just be aware that, though you may have a Facebook community and maybe it's really established, that you complement Facebook with an email sign up, capturing their email information, and do that for all social. But because a lot of people honestly use Facebook a lot as an OG platform, it might be the easiest one to allow to capture that email address. When you think of Facebook that went down, people who had blue checks, thousands upon thousands of people in the Facebook groups and everything else, they couldn't have access to it. So I really want to reemphasize that as we're doing these things, be mindful that you want to make sure you have another connection, another way to communicate with your individuals. And Facebook is a really good prime one to capture email addresses. Again, don't ignore direct messages. You'd be surprised how many people have had inquiries in their DMs and they didn't see them. It's not that you have to respond, the moment it's sent, but if it's been over a week and you haven't had the chance to respond, that could have been a hot lead that went cold. So be mindful that it's not just about scheduling posts. Let's look in the comments. Let's look in the messages. And lastly, do get your community to engage with you. The more people that engage with you, particularly on Facebook, with all the algorithms changing specifically on that platform, the better it is for you and your business. Now, one question I've gotten recently, and I really had to put some thinking behind it, is that now with Facebook, that is allowed for personal profiles to add layers like scheduling posts directly and saying what your business is. Sure, do I still need a business page? I still say a business page is relevant for SEO and validation and verification of your business. It can never go, you can never have too many things on that. But if your audience is bigger on your personal profile, there's more, approachable things like that, it might be a good thing to test. Now, the only caveat with this is that if you got just your aunties and your uncles and your church family and those who knew you back in the day, and they're not like your business target audience, yes, your engagement is good, but it doesn't mean it's going to drive you anywhere. So just be mindful of that point. Next one, the do's and don'ts on Twitter. For full disclosure, this is my favorite platform of all time to this day. So if you want to keep me in touch, @FindTroy. Do be consistent and active on Twitter. If you post once or twice a month or a year, it's not going to do you any good. Don't just tweet to tweet without engaging. I always say, if you can, spend 20 minutes just following and engaging with people. And then one thing, a hack I've been telling people who maybe not be aware of, Twitter lists are your best friend. You can create a list of people that you want to either get content from that you're engaging with, or that you want to connect with and maintain a relationship. And instead of being bombarded with everything that is just all over the place with Twitter, you can just go to your Twitter list. It can be private or it can be public. And then you can see all their engagement, engage right there, rapid fire, and be done for the day. So just things to think about with that too. Obviously, when it comes to Twitter, definitely be mindful of what you say. Now that you have, Twitter threads, which is a very phenomenal way to really give some depth to your content, drive people to blogs, events, your website, forums. It's a great situation to do that. Embrace these things. It's rapid fire. Notice that Twitter shelf life is only about 15 minutes. And some would say it's even less than that at this point. And so out of all the platforms, this is the one where you can post something more than once and it's perfectly okay. But outside of Twitter being just that, make sure you're using Twitter to stay up on news, stay up on trends. Now, it may not impact your business directly, but your consumer, it may be on the top of mind of your consumer. And so you want to use Twitter as a way to just navigate. Let me test the water. Let's see what's going on in my world to make sure that I'm aware of what maybe my consumer, what my clients, what my customers are thinking about. So I can be mindful with my content. And if there's things that's going on, I don't want to be tone deaf and just post about 15% off my product when something's happening in the world that it just doesn't look like a good light. So Twitter's a good way to do that. Next one, the do's and don'ts on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn has gone through a lot of changes, a lot of different things. And I would say that the best way to really maximize your LinkedIn is really in the DMs. The magic's in the DM. So make sure that you're consistently trying to connect and follow with other people that are relevant to your industry, or people that you admire, or who educate you, inspire you, or could be a potential client or customer. Make sure that, you know, you're not just posting to be posting, but you leave comments. When you're leaving comments with key individuals, it can go a long way. And the great thing about LinkedIn is that you build a really good community when you're sharing posts. I've shared posts that maybe from a month ago that someone starts liking and leaves a comment, and it goes right back at the top, and people think it's new, and it's just all this new engagement. And so there's a lot of good ways and benefits that LinkedIn is rolling out. Creator mode, for those who may not be aware of, I would say if you can, turn it on. There's a lot of benefits to it that you may not use right now, but even just having that on, you'll see a new thing on your profile that gives you 5 options for hashtags when you talk about. It just shows that you're modern, that you're aware of what's going on the platform, and maybe that may create more things of trust. And on top of that, you know, with the avatar, you can click on your face and leave a 30-second video or 60-second video. There's all these other features that creator mode allows you to do. So just think about this. LinkedIn is not just the resume only when I need a job or when I need to just shake a hand for a minute and call it a day. There's a lot of new features now. They've optimized their events. Now, you know, if anyone's used Clubhouse, audio events is now a thing that most people who have creator mode can now access in a timely fashion. So just think about these platforms. They're changing, they're optimizing, and it may be a good thing to test things out and see where it goes. Last one I'm going to talk about before I go into mega deep for just how do we use social media to grow is Instagram. Now, a lot of things have changed on Instagram. IGTV was a thing. Now it's not a thing. Now they're pushing more reels and it's more video heavy. Troy, do I still do images? I get a lot of these questions. And, you know, I always have to say, do what works until it doesn't. And be okay with change. And I think a lot of people used to not care about Instagram back in the day in 2012. That's a young people thing. Now it's almost like who doesn't have an Instagram account for their business. And so you've seen the transitions and trends, and culture is a big part of that. But with Instagram, just make sure that you still keep up the basics. You know, your brand looks good with the visuals and the graphics. Are you relatable? Are you doing IG lives? Are you doing reels? Are you doing, you know, long form video? Are you engaging in the comments and things like that? Those things still go a long way. I'd say if you can't do anything else, IG stories is your best friend. And if you can do a selfie, you can do an IG story. So how do we position our social efforts to grow? Make perception reality, attract and convert our ICP, which is our ideal client profile or customer profile, drive demand, and increase conversions. Well, I have a philosophy for that. My philosophy is called imagination is the engine, content is the fuel, social media is the highway, marketing is the roadmap, sales is the destination, and culture is the GPS. Obviously, we're going to focus on number 3 being social media is the highway, but I want to just take a few seconds just to emphasize that being the highway, you still need that content to drive as a fuel. But for the content to happen, it starts with the mind. Your business, a marketing campaign, sales value, all these different things started with your mind. Started with the team collaborating, coming together. And then you created the content around it. And now you're driving on the highway, trying to distribute as fast as possible. And then you get back down as you're navigating the highway. You have marketing as your roadmap, trying to navigate to your destination, which is sales, which is money and revenue and all the things. But with all of that, marketing is your roadmap, your set roadmap. Culture is your GPS saying, yeah, your roadmap's telling you here, but guess what? There's a traffic jam right there. You probably don't want to go that way. You want to go this way. You want to do these things. And so that's where, you know, tools like Twitter comes in handy to be aware of what's going on globally or in your local corner. So you're not being toned up to the content that you're pushing out. But it's also understanding that social media is a utility. It is not the destination. It is a bridge. And so if you're banking on everyone just living on social media, and you're not using social media to drive them somewhere so you can reach your actual destination, you haven't completed the process and really use social media for what it's really intended for. So where does that leave us? First thing I want to tell people, progress over perfection. There's not enough time in the day. Your content's never going to be perfect. You're going to feel like, I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the tools. Maybe I'm not confident in my looks or my voice. I don't know how to do this or the dances. Just start somewhere and just be consistent with that. Pick one platform as your main platform and just go. It's better than trying to be perfect because none of us are. Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. If we've learned anything about social media and just our lives over the last 2.5 years, is that change is inevitable. And so instead of fighting change because you want to just go how Facebook was in 2012, or our YouTube was in 2008, or our Instagram was in 2014, those golden eras are no more. So we have to adjust to the change, but still be relevant. Being consistent with our content and our mission and our value and engagement driving community will always work, no matter the platform, no matter the situation. So the future of marketing, and in this case, social media marketing, starts with the letter E for my Wheel of Fortune fans out there. We're dropping the 4 Ps and elevating the 4 Es to scale and grow in this new era of marketing. So for those who may not be aware of traditionally in marketing, the 4 Ps were product, price, place, and promotion. Very common structure, but in this new era, it's about engagement. It's about exclusivity. It's about experience. It's about emotion. People want to feel something. They want to feel you're being your authentic self. They want to feel engagement. They want to feel exclusive. I'm following this person and getting exclusive content that I can't experience anywhere else. And so when you're thinking about your content, how you're structuring it, how you're distributing it, what you engage with, how you look at the numbers and the optics and the metrics, which I'll get to in a minute, make sure you embrace these 4 Es. This is where everything is going. And when you can do these 4 things, social media will work for you. So first thing, we got to work on our mind. We got to embrace that growth mindset. So full disclosure, for those who've never heard me speak before ever in a day in your life, I'm a person who's all about personifying simplicity. And so I use acronyms and mnemonics that are easy to remember that can really take complex dialogue and make it simple to understand so you can actually activate it and do what you need to do. And so I have a few of these in here. It's fun. I'm going to keep it lively, but we're going to rapid fire through this. So CLOVER stands for clarity, leverage, optimization, vision and value, execution, and results. You want to be clear about your goals and your why. You can't do anything if you don't know what you need to do. You can't be clear about, you can't go anywhere if you don't know where you're trying to go. Then you want to leverage your time and resources wisely. I hear all the time, Troy, I don't have time to run social media. I need to make money. I need to do this. Well, where's your audience on social media? Okay, well, wouldn't it make sense to spend some time there to try to get some new business there? Yeah, but I don't know how. You can ask for help. You can collaborate with other people, whether in your space or other spaces. You can do events, and maybe they're more established on social media than you. They can help you elevate you with audience and things like that. So make sure you're leveraging your time and resources to tap in when you need to so you can grow. Number 3, never stop optimizing your process. Troy, I have a set way to do social media. I schedule 5 posts a week, 1 post a day, call it a day, and we'll just see what happens. You don't check analytics, or maybe you do a little bit. That's been your process for the last 7 years, right? Where has that gotten you? So much stuff has changed. It's not going to have the same outcome as it did before. So make sure that you are optimizing your process. You want to manifest your vision and exchange value. People want to know when they do business with you and they see your content on social media, you have a clear idea of what you're trying to do. You have this vision. Now, I'll get the question on time. Troy, what's the difference between clarity and vision? Clarity is like knowing what it is. Vision is manifesting what it is. I can see it. I can really bring that to heart, and people can feel that too. But also you want to make sure that you're exchanging value. Key word, exchange. You hear everyone all the time saying, give value on social media, give value, give value, give value, give value. When in actuality, you have to make sure that you're receiving value back as well. The next thing, and this is very key, we can go through this webinar, you can watch it on a replay, and you can take all these notes. It does you no good if you don't execute. I don't care how many books you've read. I don't care how many leaders you've connected with and follow and take notes on. If you don't actually execute doing these things to help improve your social media so you can scale and grow, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Leading to my next thing, pursue results, get results, and reset your goals. You want to get results. We have to have results. Sometimes people are afraid of data because it tells you if you're doing things right or if you're not. But the results don't lie. Make sure that you're getting results. So the 6 growth aspects that we're looking at, we're thinking about, that at least for me comes to mind: traffic, conversions, roadmaps, content, funnels, and analytics. These are the things that's going to help you determine and kind of think of it like your indicator lights. Am I getting traffic? Am I producing content? Is my content getting engagement? Are we getting conversions? How's our marketing roadmap doing? Is it moving along? How's our sales funnel? And what does our analytics tell you? These are things that are indicator lights of how, and now obviously there's other subsets of things you can use to indicate, but I think it's a general well-rounded place to just determine how well are we doing? And from that, we can make optimizations accordingly. To go even deeper into the data, when you're thinking about growth mindset, we approach, we're talking social media. You want to know the key metrics and benchmarks that matter to the bottom line, not vanity metrics that mean nothing. So like, hear me, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but hear me for a second. I used to remember back in the day, people would show how many impressions they got from a post on social media. And well, we got all this stuff. Look, it's great. Look how much engagement. How many people went to our site? How many people clicked on the form? How many people fill out the form? How many people converted? And so that's where people get a little uncomfortable because it's like, well, I don't know. I have no idea. But let's focus on our impressions. Let's make sure that the metrics that we're tracking and judging against our bottom lines or our effectiveness of the effort and energy that we're putting into this is really beneficial to the overall structure of the business. Now, if this is an awareness test and we're testing to see, how well have we penetrated in this specific marketplace, an impressions is a good metric to have. But we're trying to see how many conversions came from that. May not be. So make sure that you're using the right metric that makes sense for you in your season and your phase. Number 2, know the SWOT of your marketing, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Only you will know this if you're actually executing and testing, because marketing is a series of trial and error. And as you go along, you'll know, well, I'm strong in this area. I'm really weak in this area. There's some opportunities over here, but there's some threats over there. So make sure that you take the time to organize these thoughts and adjust accordingly. And lastly, very important, get everyone on board to believe in the process, accept the pace, and be data-driven. One of the hardest things you have to deal with social, we got to create content. And then people are like, oh, I don't want to. Oh, I don't have to. And I try to reframe that and saying, okay, hey, let's take the opportunity to show our audience how well we perform for this person. You're a father of 3 and you manage the baseball league in the summertime and you are an executive over here. Can you talk about just how you manage all this in your life? Oh, yeah, sure. Make it more personal, make it more real, make it to the level where it's easier to create content than just, oh, I don't want to do it. Because that means that your competitor is beating you. They're winning. And then you complain, why is my social media not working? Because we got to make sure everyone's on board. And when everyone's on board, we can be more consistent. When we're more consistent, we can be more competitive. When we're competitive, there's a higher chance of success. The next thing I want to talk about, leading into that point, a good segue, is my dark marketing methodology, is being direct, being authentic, being resourceful, and being tactical. Let's expand on that a little bit more. So when I want to say be direct, I want to be direct in your communication. You want to ask, you want to challenge, you want to entertain, you want to be simple, clear, but also relevant. You want to be authentic in your messaging, be relatable, share truth. Sometimes we can just take the website copy and just schedule it out. Does that relate? Is it relatable? Make it real for me. I'm the decision maker that you're trying to convince me to choose your product or your service. The more authentic you are, the better it is for the experience. Again, our 4 E's, the better it is for maybe a higher chance of conversion can happen. Be resourceful. Not everyone has a full social media team. Not everyone has the ability to pay for certain tools or pay for influencer marketing or creators. I get it. It's a lot. But it's still, there's enough room for all of us in the sky to fly. And all you have to do is be resourceful. Know your strengths and capitalize on those particular strengths. If you're a writer and your audience is all video, you can write for days though. If you can write it, you can read the script, create an audiogram. The audiogram is now a video, it counts, push it out there on YouTube, push it out there on social media and see what happens. If you're consistent in that, you could get new business. And so it's not about excuses. It's just producing and being resourceful. The last thing, be tactical. In your execution, activate strategies, build systems that help you output more while doing less. Develop tactics for repeatable success. Not just we hit our numbers for the month and we're done. You want to build a structure that helps you do it for the long-term gain. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is my leads generator blueprint. I find it very funny that, when we're looking at social media, we apply DART and we do our directness and we build our authenticity and, all these other things, resourcefulness and tactfulness, we couple that with how do I now get them through the funnel? How do I earn that trust? How do I keep them engaged? How do I drive them through the sale, but not just the sale? It's even after the sale. How do I maintain them as a customer, as a client? And so to do that, leads really helps with that. And so lead gen, engagement, authority, demand, and sales. Let's unpack that a little bit more. And I'll focus on the first three. They're my biggest ones, and we'll focus on the next two a little bit. Leverage language to launch. I use this example all the time, and I think it's a really good one, and it lands with a lot of people when it comes to social media. Sometimes what we think, we say, we project, we produce for social media, it's doing wonders. It lands, people just understand. But in actuality, no one knows what you're saying. They cannot comprehend what you're saying. They don't understand it. It doesn't connect with them. Now, yes, marketing is a series of trial and error. It takes time. I get that. But it's very critical that you have your messaging to a point where it's clear and it's concise, and people don't have to worry about processing it. And so when you're doing these things and you're pushing out content, sometimes you could be saying the right thing in the wrong language. I could be saying something in Mandarin, and I'm speaking to people who only understand Spanish or only understand French. And they're not comprehending what I'm saying, even though what I'm saying is the solution to what they've been wanting all of this time, because it didn't leverage the right language to launch. And that's you understanding your audience. That's you doing active listening to ensure and make sure that you're grasping how they're speaking, how they're talking, where they meet them where they are. So that way, the language, the messaging, the content, the tone, the depth, the disposition that you're distributing out on social media matches. It runs in parallel, which helps you reduce the friction. So they can see you as you want to be seen and not as something that you're not. So you can launch the conversation. So you can launch them as an advocate. So you could launch them as a follower or whatever the case might be. The next thing, which runs right in parallel with leveraging language to launch the messaging component, is educating and entertaining people to enchant. The TikTok boom, why was it so successful? Not just because we had nothing to do and we was just in our homes, it's because it was entertaining. But yes, the entertainment was there, but you know what else it was? It was educational. It introduced us to things from different generations, cross generations that we might have forgotten or we were not aware of because we were not alive literally during that time. It allowed other people to talk in other ways and break things down because we just were all here, just a sponge, a library. Please teach me something. Please educate me. And so you as a business, well, Troy, I don't do TikToks, understand the psychology of what TikTok allowed us to do. Understand that when you're entertaining and you're educating, you can now win someone's heart. When I have the heart of my customer, when I have the heart of my client, when I have the heart of my audience, that builds community. When I think about certain things with this particular thing in mind, and I use this example all the time, and I ask this question: how did NGOs, nonprofits, in many cases survive the pandemic when they're structured to get donations? And a lot of people maybe didn't have the money, or they, because of cash flow, they kind of hoarded some of their money and different things like that for financial, because they know what's going on with the marketplace. But yet a lot of people still donated because they were enchanted by the mission of the nonprofit, the mission of the NGO. They willingly donated out of their own free will, despite everything going on in the world, because they had their hearts. They were aligned with their mission. And so that's powerful. And guess what? For-profits, y'all can do the same thing. You can have that same amount of power when it comes to social media. To my next point, attract and amplify to activate. Sometimes you got to be the magnet. Sometimes you got to be the bullhorn. My good friend, Jessica Phillips, expressed and said it in such a way, and I give her credit for that. You want to attract by, again, leveraging language launch. You want to attract them by giving them what they need, giving them what they want. And then you want to amplify your message for all the people who want to see it, who need to see it, should see it, to activate them as part of the community, to be ambassadors for your business, ambassadors for your brand. They rep your brand. Yeah, you may not be on Apple's level, but don't you know it's power in social media that if you push the right message with the right message and language, and it's entertaining, it's educational, has the right mission, that people, it attracts the right people, and other people will then amplify it so that way your mission can be achievable. Do you need 10 more clients by the end of the year? Turn that into a mission and tell people, my goal is to give our team member $5,000 of bonuses by Christmas. Lots of people still, going through pandemic stuff, and this money can help them. But to do that, we have to achieve 10 new clients. And this is our mission, and we need your help. And people love to be a part of something bigger than themselves, which is the next thing. Dream big and distinguish yourself to drive. Social media, for all the things that people hear, it still has allowed us to connect to people around the world, to people in an instant, that I can go live right now and have 100 people watching me. That's still powerful. It may be outplay or who does lives anymore and all this stuff. That still is very, very, very powerful. And so don't let maybe the fear or the imposter syndrome or the unknowingness of certain tools or certain platforms diminish your ability to dream big of what you could do on a platform given enough time. Maybe bringing on people to help you, instruction, maybe searching on YouTube, or just, and again, no matter what, practice, put in the effort. But you want to dream big and you want to distinguish yourself. You don't want to sound like everyone else. You still want to have your own tone, your own messaging, your own mission, your own voice. And lastly, you want to share frequently and support often to shine. This is where a lot of people mess up on social media. And we go back. I talk about broadcasting and people just want to spray and pray and set it and forget, and they just go, 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 go. They don't take the time to let me listen to what other people are asking for and see if I can serve as a bridge to help them get to what they want through my social media, or take it off social media and make that additional connection, that additional support. And so share frequently, again, amplifying other people is only going to do good for you. You're so good out in the world, you're going to receive a lot of it back. So support, and again, I said this all the time, there's enough room for all of us in the sky to fly. And so when you're allowing yourself to just help other people, reshare other people's messages, other people's events, people are going to know you're a connector. You're a bridge on these social media streets. You're a helpmate. And that does you so good, because when you need someone to amplify your message to help you get new clients or customers or test things out and things of that nature, they're going to come to your aid and support you. What does this all got to do with how do I grow my business? We talked about Clover and Dart and leads. You talked about the 7 do's and the 7 notes and all this stuff. And this is great information. But how do I put all that, together? And it's really quick. You want to build trust. Social media is the highway, and it allows you to build trust. Trust that then they take the next step, the next action, whether that's filling out a form, whether that's going to your website, making a phone call, meeting in person for coffee, or meeting up for a meeting, or setting a Zoom call for an introduction meeting, or just going right to, let's just buy the product, buy the service, and get started. But that's all around trust. And so, again, another acronym. I had to leave out with one more. I know. You want to triangulate the intersection between your goals and your target audience needs. They need to be running in parallel. Again, this all ties in together, that leverage language to launch and making sure that you have the right messaging and tone, but make sure that you're meeting them where they are, and that your goals and what your audience needs, what they want, what they're screaming about, is in alignment. Because when you can do that, they'll listen and they'll hear what you have to say. You want to radiate in kindness and positivity, things that people think they're doing, but sometimes forget. Kindness goes a long way, because what the metrics may not show you in likes and comments, people still consume. And they still have you on top of mind. They may not be ready to buy a car right now, right? But 3 years later, I want to buy a car. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to circle their mind through all this emphasis of the structure of content they received for maybe a BMW or a Ford or whatever the brand might be. So radiate kindness and positivity. You want to unite your team in strategy, messaging, purpose, and value, and share that with your community. Unity goes a long way. When they see your business, your brand as a united front, that's in alignment with what their values are, what their beliefs are, what they need, what their mission is, they want to help support. it really expands your community horizon. You want to share vulnerability to create openness. Sometimes we have to have this really deep impression of certain level, especially in business, where we have to have it all together all the time. Y'all know there's so many things that happened during the pandemic where people made it very clear, I need business, I need help. And you know what the world did? They helped them. Don't be too prideful to not ask for help. Share some vulnerability. Doesn't mean you gotta share all the tea, but share it to show your humanity so they can be connected. It's very powerful. It's very impactful, and it goes a long way. And lastly, triumph in the glory that is your culture. You know, there's a thing where you got to manifest the victory. You got to manifest the wins. And people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be a part of community, but also they want to have that swagger. So make sure that you're having that swagger and you're showing that off in your content, on your social media channels. They want to know it, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a chef, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a consultant, whatever you are, whatever industry you are in, you have a certain distinguished way about yourself. So you want to make sure that you show that swagger and you show that triumph of the impact. Look at the results that I've helped this client do or this customer does. And all these things come together to help you really use your social media as a bridge, keyword, bridge on the destination, a bridge to help you grow your business. So that's really all that I have. I'd be more than happy to really go and dive into any questions. There's my links, podcast, website, forum. I'm at FindShore on all social media platforms. And again, thank you, SCORE, for the opportunity to give you all value.
Well, Troy, thank you. You're the guy that brought this content in a very engaging way to our audience, and we're seeing a lot of questions. So let's get right to it, if it's okay with you. All right.
Perfectly fine.
So let's. What is the best time of day to post? What time of day results in the most hits?
Sure. I would always question with the question, can we define hits? Is that engagement as far as comments, likes, clicks, all this matters? So I get this question a lot. I've had this question, it feels like, for the last decade of my life. I think the first thing to approach this question when it comes to time zones, where is your audience? Are you a local business wherein it really does matter if, they're riding the L and they're off the L and it's like, 10 in the morning to noon? That might be a good time to really push that content, but also matters on the platform. If you're LinkedIn, it's always good to be a morning person. If you're not a morning person like me, you could schedule the content out in the morning. It's probably your best bet, no matter what time zone you're living in. But particularly if you're a local business, it does matter more with maybe when you post, because you're literally in the time zone of what makes sense based off traffic and different things like that. But I think since the pandemic, people are more remote. That question is becoming less and less relevant because people will be consuming content at all times. Obviously, it matters more of what type of content as well. I would say if it's a video, it's never wrong to post early and share often. If it's text posts, you may want to post more than once, 1 in the morning, modify it and post it at night, and see which time works better based off the subject matter. So to answer the question, you can never go wrong in the mornings, and seeing how far the shelf life is for the engagement and switch it up accordingly.
Right. So this, just a quick file, this relates to likes and engagement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Next question. Are things like LinkedIn impressions accurate? We get a very high number of impressions, but may only get 20 to 40 likes and 1 to 3 comments.
It can be. So it depends on a lot of factors. Are you using hashtags in your LinkedIn posts? Did you tag anyone in your LinkedIn posts? Who liked or commented your LinkedIn post? All of those other variables will expand your impression pool. And so if you're averaging 20 to 40 likes, those 20 or 40, if it's the same individuals, look at their audiences and their sizes. That could really determine if your impression is at its level. Now, obviously, impressions is kind of hit and miss, especially LinkedIn, that make all these changes with the platform in the last 3 to 6 months. But I would say for the most part, impressions would be good. I wouldn't say it's the best metric to track unless you're trying to focus on awareness. If you're trying to really build a community and reach, it's probably not the best thing to track. I would track more who's commenting, who's mentioning, and if anyone's leaving a message in the DMs. Got it.
Here's a general one. I'm a bit of a challenging one, but a really good one in terms of identifying the best social media platform to accelerate. And then I guess one of that core issues related to is under what circumstances and who you're marketing to, but I'm going to leave it to you to answer. So
I think, Al, you can do it for me.
No. You don't want me answering. I pose questions, but you're doing great. Thank you.
If I were to do it all over again, knowing what I know now in this market, I would do, I know I'm going to break my rule, but I'm going to do it. What I like to call is the slingshot method. And so you have your primary platform and you have your secondary platform. So you can say you're Batman and Robin or however dynamic duo you want to insert there. I would go with LinkedIn if I'm being honest. And the reasons why, a few reasons. I need to go where the decision makers are, not where the clout chasers are. I'm going to repeat that. I need to go where the decision makers are. I don't need to go where the clout chasers are. If I want social media to serve as a utility to make me money and not just rub my ego, I need to make sure that I'm at a platform where if I am posting content regularly and it's high converting and things like that, it's reaching decision makers who actually are serious about doing business with me. Now, couple that with how do I get people connected on LinkedIn? My platform of choice is Twitter. It's easy to do. I don't have to do a lot of words. It actually restricts how much words I have to work with, which is a joy for me. And Twitter actually allows me to practice getting to the point. Sometimes when we look at Facebook, which feels like we can write forever, and LinkedIn, which we can write for 3,000 characters, that we can say all this stuff, but you can probably simplify it to a few sentences and then do another tweet or do a Twitter thread even, just see where it goes. And so I would say do a slingshot method. But if I start all over again, as a business, I would say LinkedIn. Now, if you are a person who is absolutely comfortable with video and you don't mind being consistent and you're willing to do the work, then you might want to consider Instagram or TikTok. The platform of choice that you need to choose to start off with is parallel with what content you're comfortable with doing. Do you like to write? Are you a video person? Are you a short, right to the point type of person? Based on that determination will determine what platform you should do, because that gives you the highest chance of consistency, which means you have the highest chance of success.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned YouTube, and that's one of our next questions. What can you give us a sense about the value of YouTube and podcasts from your perspective and how they should be used?
To clarify for the person, I don't know if they can respond as putting a podcast on YouTube or just YouTube in general.
Two separate tactics, YouTube and podcasts. Yeah, I
can talk about both. Great. So YouTube, second largest engine on this planet, and the largest engine kind of owns it. Google, there's no surprise there. So it's to your benefit to put videos on there, which helps you with your searchability and your SEO. So, but the thing people don't do when they upload videos to YouTube, your title, you have all 5,000 characters in your description, you have tags, and you can embed links. As long as you put HTTPS or HTTP, it doesn't work without that in there for those who may not be aware. So use that as the ability to add links back to your website, to your socials, maybe to a forum, things that maybe it may not lead you business right this second, but 3 months from now, they're searching something, your video comes up, they go in the description, they see the link, they click on the link, you fill out a form, you just got your biggest client of the year. And so it doesn't mean, now there's a lot of different strategies with YouTube. I approach YouTube as a mission and vision gallery. I would never claim myself to be a YouTuber, but I do post a few videos on occasion every month. I'll organize it in a playlist, and I use those embedded videos on my website. I share links with different people and different things that maybe cover things that I don't have to repeat myself in an email. Watch this video, and I'm done. So using YouTube as an SEO and embedding videos and to really, kind of link build your content and so much to speak is a good way to do it. Now, switching over to podcasts really quick. For those who don't know, my podcast is I Digress. Did a little something, top 100 marketing podcast. Was a Webby nominee. I came in second in my category, creativity and marketing, but that's another conversation another day. So I do know a little something about podcasts, but I will say the best way to make your podcast work for you is, one, be very consistent with it. The average person stops at episode 7. I'm currently at episode 62. I should release another episode hopefully tomorrow. It takes a lot of consistency. It's a lot of work. It's very different than doing a video. And I would say, I get this all the time with Troy, you're very animated, you're really good. Why don't you do a video cast? I knew that would not be sustainable for me when I started my podcast. I need audio, I don't have to worry about video, I don't have to worry about my lighting, my outfit, my swagger. I can just talk, call it a day, edit, take out the breathing and all the other stuff, maybe add some music, some tunes, and boom, I'm done. You have to create, and people get very ambitious with podcasts. They think, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to do all these things. And then you get 3 episodes in, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm done. And so to avoid all of that, simplify. For me, I said no longer than 30 minutes. Only myself, because I didn't have the capacity at the time to bring on guests. But if you can, it's to your benefit. It's the easiest way to get new business, to get new sales and opportunities in the door by asking someone who you're trying to do business with who doesn't like to talk about themselves. And so if you want to use your podcast that way, great. For me, I use it for SEO purposes because I can submit my podcast to all these distributions. When people search my name, the podcast comes up and all these different avenues that I couldn't penetrate with my website. I don't have the money to pay for $50,000 in PPC ads every month. But the podcast, people aren't doing this much still, even today. There's not enough room to do that. And so that could be a way to be benefit for you.
Right. I've got a few more questions. Please send in your questions. We've got, more time, and we'll even go over if necessary. But I have an interesting question. This individual could be an artist, and they're interested in knowing, I think, the value of artistic images, maybe graphics on the social media posts, and your perspective on those versus video, perhaps, versus static photos, images, this type of thing, actually, artistic images.
Okay. I have a different thought that comes with artistic images, so I'm not sure the depth of it, but I'll try to take a crack at that. I think no matter what, content that tells a story that people can understand will work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're doing video, whether you're doing stagnant image, which could be just an image, let's say a screenshot or whatever, or more in-depth image where you have text and intentfulness, or an artful image where it has a lot of depth and layers, different like that, maybe from Photoshop or Canva type of thing. It really comes back to is the energy and effort that you put into that type of content, are you getting a return on investment that justifies you continually doing that? Many times, a lot of clients that I deal with, they love doing certain type of content just because it's their personal preference, but it's hurting their bottom line because it doesn't move the needle and it doesn't make an impact and it doesn't drive conversations whatsoever. And they've been doing it for 3-6 months, maybe even longer. And so I always, especially when you're going to really deep and intentful, artful, or just mega deep content as well, where it takes a lot of time and energy, maybe even resources or money, make sure that the energy and effort and money is justifiable with the outcomes. And obviously that may take some time depending on the type of content, but in this case, offer content, it can work. I'm not saying it can't. It definitely depends on the platform. Obviously, I think, people say Instagram is video heavy, but it still can be valuable. But no matter what platform you choose to use that content for, consistency will always win the day, because there's always going to be someone who recognizes you. And now you're the lawyer of TikTok. You're the lawyer of Instagram. It doesn't really matter what platform. If you're intentful, the content makes sense and you're consistent.
Okay. All right, this will be a last question, and then I have a few quick announcements before we close. So everybody, thank you for hanging in with us. This one will take a few minutes to answer. It's one of these kind of in the weed ones, but I think it will be very insightful. Here's the question. Do you have data on which market segments engage most in which platforms? One segment I have is college grads entering the workforce, and another is parents with kids in elementary, middle, and high school.
Okay. First thing I think of is Facebook. Why? Because it has all the generations on Facebook. And also it has just an endless sea of timeless data from that. And so you're dealing with generations of college students, but also parents with small kids or young kids, young adults, even things like that. It could be a good way to catch all 22 to invest efforts there, because the audiences are there in this data to back that up, right? There's a lot of different resources to try to quantify and validate certain data points. A lot of people can spit out a lot of numbers that may not even be real. They reference from a source that doesn't matter. So make sure that whatever data you use, I'd rather prefer it being your own data than maybe someone else who's trying to speculate as your data, because it doesn't work. But I will say this, I think, TikTok actually might be a good point, especially with the ads that they're running now for businesses and things like that, an opportunity to test out and see, because it does mask those two demographics for TikTok as well. And I would also add to that point, YouTube also could be a really good channel to drive that and see that too. It has the same depth of field as Facebook, but better because it's Google. It would reach all those audiences. Even if it's specifically for young kids, you would have the check mark, the same as for kids. So you would create a new channel and nurture that way. So hopefully that answered your question from the data perspective of those social platforms.
Great. Troy, I have one question about a webinar for SCORE, and then we'll wrap up. Everybody, thank you for your questions. I hope I think it's been a really solid Q&A session followed by a very strong content presentation. The question is about the September 22nd webinar, key employment issues for small businesses. You should be getting announcements about it, but what is it about? It focuses on key considerations for businesses as they hire their first employees. Business owners will walk away with understanding of the various pitfalls that exist for small businesses and how to avoid unexpected liabilities so that business owners can focus on growth and not risk. The presenter is Walker Lawrence, employment lawyer and partner, Employment and Labor Group at Levin Ginsberg in Chicago. So, hey, Troy, this has been amazing. You're an absolute pleasure to work with. You're a real pro. Troy tells me he does hundreds of webinars a year, and I think we were just really fortunate that you could get us on the calendar here. And we will follow up with you in a couple of days. And to everybody this evening, we really appreciate your commitment of your time and hope this has been of value to you. And if SCORE can be of help to you, we're here for free mentoring. It's confidential, and remember score.org. And on behalf of Troy and SCORE North Cook and Lake counties, everybody, thank you and have a great evening.